viewers, my name's Cara. This is my personal channel. My non-personal channel, for those who may wonder when I say that all the time, is the Pagan Perspective collab channel, on which I am the Tuesday host and co-founder. We've been doing stuff since 2009. So that's my non-personal channel. This is my personal channel. Welcome. This is another video in my mini topics about my experience at my first witch camp series. If you want to learn more about witch camps, there's a link in the description to witchcamp.org. Witch camps are week-long intensives in the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft. You can learn more about the reclaiming tradition and about witch camps in general through that link. That should take you to some other places. Also looking up things by Starhawk and the Spiral Dance and her book The 12 Wild Swans as well. And my video about witch camp before I go will tell you more about it. And also all of these videos about my experience with my first witch camp are going to be in a playlist together. So check that out as well. This video is about my connection with the elements. So through the course of witch camps, there is a path that you take that you focus on in the mornings, and then in the evenings everyone gets together for community rituals, whole group rituals that bring the whole camp together. But in the mornings, there are different paths that you can take. You choose one to do the whole time, but there are different ones to choose from, and I chose to take the Fundamental Elements of Magic class for my first witch camp, which was useful to me, even though I already know a lot of the basics, because it helped me get a feel for like, what does this tradition teach as their basics, and how much of that do I already know? The cool thing was that I already knew a lot, so I was able to just learn some new nuances to things, new techniques for things. I talked more about that in the second video in this series. So in this video, I want to talk about some specific connections to the elements. Each day we focused on a different element. We invoked different allies having to do with that element. We worked on different practical witchcraft and magic skills having to do with that element. And we also did a lot of walking on the land and looking for our allies on the land that spoke to us through that element. So looking back at my notes and just remembering my experiences, the big thing that I can say I took away was that we talked about our connections with the elements in both external ways and also internal. So for example, my notes a lot of the time had to do with like, okay, when walking the land and looking for allies with a specific element, there were things like, my allies for air are the fluttering leaves and the little dainty yellow butterflies that appeared out of nowhere, and the wind, and things like that. But also my breath and my voice, communication, things like that. And for the fire day, it was remembering external allies and properties of fire, such as community, comfort, warmth, physical and spiritual and mental and all that good stuff, and physical qualities of fire, like burning and cleansing, as well as warming and things like that. But also internal qualities of fire, like passion, creativity, love, innovation, invention, things like that. So that was a big recurring theme for me, was remembering that it's not only, when you say allies, it doesn't have to be external. It doesn't have to be physical. It can also be internal things. Also, just the way that I relate to the elements and learning to look for allies and recognize their messages at all. We did a lot of work with seeking and finding and deepening alliances. That was kind of the overall theme of the whole camp, was about that. And accepting when allies come to us that were unexpected, and things that we never thought about, and welcoming that. And even things that maybe don't seem like they could be the best match, finding out how they really are informative and helpful. So we did things like working with circle casting for the element of air, and energy work for fire, and water. What did we even do for water? Water, we worked with trance. Earth, we talked a lot about self-care, which is a huge thing for me right now. Self-care, self-love, remembering what we need to sustain ourselves, keep ourselves hydrated, keep ourselves nourished. What is nourishing your soul? Now, the other really interesting thing for me during camp was that in one of the really early rituals toward the beginning of the week, one of the teachers mentioned that some people believe that when you are invoking the elements in your sacred space, once you have invoked and welcomed earth, air, fire, and water, or air, fire, water, earth, that those elements together make up what we think of as spirit, qualities of spirit. And so by invoking those four elements, spirit is already there. So there is no need to separately invoke and invite spirit. You can acknowledge that it has arrived, you can welcome it, but they don't feel that it's a separate thing to invoke, because when all the others are present, spirit is also present. I had never thought of that before. Kind of liked it. So what they suggested and what they did for that evening's ritual was, instead of invoking spirit, they invoked center, which is a totally different, I was going to say element, but I didn't mean the literal element, but I mean like a totally different thing to bring in. It's a totally different energy. It's a totally different, evokes a much different sense in my mind when I think of it. Center makes me think of place, makes me think of focus, makes me think of my center, makes me think of the physical center of the circle, being present, just a lot of imagery with revolution and what is central to your purpose. Whereas spirit is like, does exist within and without and everything like that, but center and spirit feel like very different things to me that are very much related, right? So in a lot of the rituals after that, a lot of people invoked center and spirit, welcomed both, acknowledged both. And then another thing we worked with on the last day of Path, when we were talking about spirit center, was also mystery. So that is something that in some rituals was invoked along with spirit and center, spirit center and mystery. Sometimes was invoked as its own thing. So that was just really cool to me. That's not something I had ever thought of before. And now when I do my personal rituals, I think more about, what do I want to acknowledge here? Do I want to focus on spirit? Do I want to invoke center? Do I want to invoke mystery by name? And to what extent do you feel that those things are already there when you've already done the other work? And when do you want to invoke it specifically and separately and purposefully? I think those are really my big insights about it, and so before I close this video, I just want to say that, again, I already said this in the second video in this little mini-series, but it was very cool to me to choose to take the fundamental elements of magic class, even though I did already know a lot of the basics of witchcraft and magic, because I've been doing this for a long, long time, because it helped me with a personal goal of mine, which is to have a better idea of how other people do things and how other people see things. Because I definitely learned a lot about how people see the elements, how people work with what we consider basics in these systems, and being in a path with people who were brand spanking new to witchcraft, and also being with people who had been doing it for way longer than I have and were choosing to go back to basics and go back to the fundamentals. And it was also just really cool for me, like I said, being solitary for the most part, coming into a tradition and seeing, okay, what do they teach about these things? What do I already agree with? What new things have I learned? What might I not agree with? I'm happy to say there was very few things that I didn't agree with. Reclaiming feels very home-like to me. It's very cool. And I still just am very grateful for these opportunities and grateful for the path that led me here. Because as I've spoken to the subject in the past, Starhawk's books and the Spiral Dance had been recommended to me when I started on YouTube, but I didn't feel ready for them. And then a few years ago, I felt ready, and in a way I see why. Like, I totally appreciate the evolution that my path has taken and the things that I needed to learn and go through before I could engage in this type of work. And it's a fun time, man. So I encourage you to learn more about reclaiming and witch camps if that's something that interests you. And if not, I encourage you to get more involved in whatever tradition does speak to you in any way that you can, whether that's getting involved in groups and taking classes and things, just taking general witchcraft magic classes at local places if you can. Just, hey, why not? Find out what other people think. But also just deepening your personal practice, because I feel like that's been a huge thing for me lately, and it's very rewarding. It's not easy all the time, depending on, what we're called to do and what we want to do. But I'm having a really good time, and I want that for all of you. Thank you so much for watching, and the next video in this little series will be more about allies, and more about my work with allies and just that experience in general. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.